Alright, what is going on, guys? So it is time to start moving back into the bucket. So we've had this build on pause for about a year and a half, 2 years. What happened was we finished the car, it was running great. Because it's a low compression engine, we did a full forged low compression engine build. Because it was low compression, it kind of drives like dog because it's NA. Once we finished the car, I actually daily drove it for about 3 months. So the car still works, it still runs, it still drives. The rear suspension is completely blown out. Doing the engine build kind of put me into debt because it was a very expensive engine build. So I wanted to pay all that stuff off first. I did that, and then we started saving money for this. At the same time, me and Danny started getting into drifting. So I was putting money towards the drift car and putting money towards this. And then COVID hit. So during COVID, the shop that I worked for was working like month to month, almost going under before COVID. And then COVID hit. I don't know if this shop is going to last for that much longer through all this COVID stuff, so I didn't want to spend all my money blowing it on car parts only to end up with a ton of car parts, no job and no money. So we kind of put everything on pause. Now we're getting out of COVID. I got hired by Throttle, it's been awesome, and everything is kind of returning back to normal, so now it's time to start getting back into this pile. So it is a little dusty because it's been sitting for a while. The main reason I stopped driving it was because the rear suspension is completely shot. It is awful to drive. It makes a ton of clunks and clanks, and the CVs are bad. It's just not a good time. We're gonna be mainly doing rear suspension stuff. We have a little bit of stuff for the front suspension. I want to go through, pretty much the only thing it needs at this point is just lower control arms. But pretty much all the good control arm kits you can find are wide angle, either that or they're Chinese garbage control arms. So I don't really know if I'm gonna mess with that because it seems to be working pretty well. The main is in the back. The trailing arm bushings are gone. The axles are gone. Diff bushings are gone. There's just a lot of stuff going on with it. So we're gonna be doing a full through on the suspension. Almost everything is gonna be brand new. Then after that is done, then we're gonna start moving back into engine stuff and get this thing boosted, because putting more power through this engine with awful suspension is not the answer. So to start, we have a brand new set of axles. These are GSP axles. I've heard good and bad things about these. I want to run a set of drive shaft shop axles at some point when we get this thing up and running properly with boost. I think for now these are going to work. We have a set of Eibach lower control arms. These are camber arms. Good piece to have when you're sitting low. This thing is super low, just like my M3 sedan. And having camber arms lets us have tires that don't wear out as fast as if they were on standard control arms, which this one is right now. We have a new subframe. The only reason I'm putting the new subframe on is because I had a spare one liner out, so I blew the bushings out already. So literally to replace the subframe, all we have to do is take the old one out, pop the bushings in this one, and slam it back on. I don't have to spend, you know, a few hours messing with melting the bushings out. We can just slam the new subframe on and call it a day. In addition to that, we have new rear spindles. So multiple lug holes on the car I've had to retap because they were just completely destroyed, completely chewed up. I am going to get a set of new lugs, so we're just going to pretty much start fresh with new spindles. So the new CVs will sit nice in that, and they'll pull out nice when I go to disassemble everything. It won't be old and crusty and chewed up lug holes. Brand new lug nuts is going to make that super nice. It's going to be pretty much brand new. Rear wheel bearings, I don't know if the rear wheel bearings are bad on this car. We're going to replace them anyways because we have to put the new spindles in. When you replace the spindles, you have to blow the whole thing out, and these wheel bearings don't like to come out in one piece. So that's just going to be like the cherry on top. We have a brand new set of control arm ball joints, or trailing arm ball joints. So we've done pretty much these on every single car we have in the drift car. And this car hasn't gotten a new set. I think they're starting to go bad, have a little play in them. So we got a brand new set of 4. And we have a full Garrogistic poly bushing kit. Trailing arm bushings, diff bushings, front lollipop bushings, front diff bushing, and then of course the subframe bushings. And to go with the front lollipop bushings, we have a new set of lollipop arms. I don't know if you consider these arms, but these are the lollipop mount, and they don't have bushings in them, so it'll be a lot nicer. So that way we don't have to press the old ones out. We can just take these out, throw the bushings in there, and slam them on the car. So there is going to be a lot of stuff. Pretty much every bushing, ball joint, bearing on the rear end is going to be brand new, and that's going to make it super nice, along with all of the new stiff poly components that will be going in it. I've wanted to go through this suspension for a very long time, and the fact that we're finally getting to it is freaking awesome. And then once this is done, then the car will be dialed in and ready for more power, and then we can start throwing mods at it. So another thing I wanted to mention is we are not going to be doing a DIY series on this car for the suspension rebuild. I would like to do one on my sedan or on one of the other 36s, full DIY, kind of like the manual swap series, where it's just a huge list of videos of going through everything. So we're going to be doing that at some point. We're not going to be doing it for this car, but we're going to vlog the build anyways. It'll be fun. So we already have a pair of BC coilovers set up on the car. We are not going to be touching the brakes, placing them. So the pads, rotors, and parking brakes are going to stay, but they're going to come off. I don't mind doing minor press work like the trailing arm bushings we can do here. The trailing arm ball joints we're going to do here. I hate doing wheel bearing press work. I don't have the tooling for it here. So we're going to send the trailing arms out to get the bearings and the new spindles pressed in. So the first objective is to get the trailing arms out, get them stripped down so I can take them down to the machine shop on Monday, and then we can start going after the rest of the stuff. Alright, so we've already ran into our first problem. This is rounded as hell. I have never taken this rotor off. How you get this off is you take a punch, you actually grab it by the meat on the side, not in the hex, and then you just pound it out with a hammer. So this is absolutely going to destroy this bolt, so I've already ordered a new set. So if anyone has this problem, I'm going to try not to make this video like too DIY-ish style, but I am going to be telling you guys what to take off and where to take it off. I minimize stuff like for the brake caliper, just pull the 17s off the back, it comes off. You don't have to take the spring off, you don't have to take any of those two off on the back, you don't have to separate the caliper from the caliper bracket, it just all comes off as one unit. So we're going to try to make this not too DIY, but I'm going to be kind of showing you guys what to do. Not that big of a deal, I guess. Ta-da! So the best way that I have found to deal with the parking brake is actually just to take the little springs off first, and then everything just kind of all sorts itself out. So like that. We need to get our spring off, so we need a flathead. And they work. Okay. The answer is yes. These shoes are super cracked. But I'm not worried about that. It's not a drift car. That's gonna come out. And this pin should fall through. Boom, there you go. Brakes and parking brake disassembled. So now the cable, oh yeah, pop through the back of the trailing arm. Get this up out of the way. Rotor off. Look at that. Completely fell apart. As I was taking it off, the rest of the packing fell off. Cool. Well, new set of those. We don't need that for a little while. So we should be able to tag those from back here with an impact. I think that'll probably be the best play. Something to happen here. Aha. Seeing the problem. Oh yeah. There we go. Didn't even have to land to the car for that. One. There's 2. Alright, so our brake line, which runs up under the axle, is actually bolted to the trailing arm here and here. I'm going to be doing this entire suspension rebuild without cracking the brake lines, because that sucks. Not that it's hard to bleed them, it just makes it a lot easier as far as mess goes. So I already changed the diff fluid when we did the engine, so I don't need to touch that. We bled the brakes actually and the clutch when I did the engine, so all the fluid should be okay, I don't think. Alright, so I just got the wheel speed sensors off. We're going to go for these guys now. So we're going to go for the bottom one. I'm actually going to crack the lower control arm at the subframe so it'll kind of swing down. We won't be able to get that arm off until the diff is out. But with that arm down, because this brake caliper, the line is loose all the way back to here, we can actually lay the brake caliper on the ground without stretching the line. And down, we're going to get the brake kind of over there-ish, somewhere on the ground. We'll come for the upper and then go for the trailing arm bushing up here, and then this trailing arm should be completely off. The axle is going to come with it. I don't know about this one, but the other one will. I plan to take it off with it because this one was still being kind of stubborn. There's 2. Alright, let's lay down and try and WWE slam it on the freaking ground. Ooh, holy fuck. Alright, so we got them both out. The axle on the passenger side just kind of fell out as I was taking it apart. That one did not, so we're going to have to pound that out. But yeah, that's not supposed to do that. So that's supposed to be a stable bushing, because that controls your toe. And if it can slide back and forth in the pocket like that, that's literally changing the toe as you drive. And that was a problem that I had with this car, is you'd be driving it and the steering wheel would be dead straight, then you'd hit a bump and the car would shift and then the steering wheel would be straight like that. So the rear end toe is like changing as you drive it when the trailing arms are gone. Not good. Alright, so it's day 2 working on the bucket. Yesterday we got the trailing arms blown off. Today we're going to get them stripped down. So the trailing arm bushings are coming out, the trailing arm ball joints are going to go out, and then they're going to be going out to the machine shop to get the wheel bearing and the spindles pressed on. I welded on the driver's side axle because it's seized in the wheel bearing for probably 40 minutes yesterday. I'm not going to mess with that anymore because when it gets to the machine shop they're going to send it out of press and it'll be out in 5 seconds. So I'm not going to spend more time than I have to doing that. Once we get those trailing arms stripped down, then they can go out to the machine shop tomorrow, and then the rest of today is going to be us getting the diff out, the sway bar, subframe, pretty much everything else out. Start with the disassembly. I've picked up a trailing arm ball joint and suspension bushing kit, and I have done trailing arm ball joints removal and install without this kit, and this kit is like unbelievably easier to use. And I got a trailing arm bushing tool. I actually haven't even opened this. This hasn't even been out of the bag. I did Evan Beckerman's bushings with his M3 using this kit. And with the amount of E36s that we have here, buying these tools is just totally worth the time. I think they weren't even that expensive. I think this was like 80 bucks. Having done these many times, I will tell you that is like unbelievably fast. So I'm not even going to edit this at all because it's just so freaking fast. Something I love is just a good tooling. There you go. That's all she wrote. Both of them are out. 2 trailing arm bushings, 2 trailing arm ball joints per side. So these guys are stripped down and ready to go out for press work for the new bearings and spindles. It's gonna be awesome. So, moving back onto the car. So my plan of attack is to drop the sway bar, drop the diff, we can pull our 4 remaining control arms off, and then the subframe itself will come out. So not a whole lot of work, it's gonna be fun. Alright, there are our 4 drive shaft nuts off. Now we get to go after our sway bar. Get the tabs up. Easy, mama. Oh, shit. Just gotta let it do its thing. There we go. Alright. Ow. What's going on there? Okay. So, that is the brake pad wear sensor. These are the wheel speed sensors. So we do need to disconnect this stuff. So that is part of the chassis. That's not the subframe, but we do need to disconnect these from the subframe because if you start yanking on this stuff, it's going to pull out. It is literally 5 or 6 seconds. I gotta grab some wire cutters so we can cut these zip ties. How's our wiring connections? We can just pop these out. There's a little connector box on the side there, but we don't want these wires getting pulled out with everything. Alright, so there's the old subframe, upper control arms, diffs right there. So we're probably going to clean up the upper control arms, probably clean up the new rear subframe that's going in, clean the diff, just kind of get the road grime off of everything, the sway bar, and then maybe throw like a nice coat of jet black. So that way when you're underneath the car, just everything looks fresh, you know, so it doesn't look like a mix of brand new stuff and kind of old junky road grime parts. So it'll be nice. So we're going to get to cleaning. I'm going to wrap this video up here. I don't know if I'm going to film the cleaning and painting and all that stuff because it's really not that crazy. You just wash it down and then send it. So, handles off, have the trailing arm press work done, and then once everything is back, then we can start throwing things back together. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it fresh, and I'll see you guys later.